Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the 99 Club here for Bashor Children's Home, providing help for today and hope for tomorrow to children and families who are the most in need here in Elkhart County. The 99 Club, of course, you've heard the spiel. This fine T-shirt can be yours. Join the 99 Club by writing a $99 check or letting us take $99 off your card, however you choose to pay it. You can walk in and give Sean McCrindle $99 with the pennies if you like, but it's a lot easier just to donate online. Join the 99 Club, a $99 contribution. We're trying to get 99 folks during the course of these podcasts to make that $99 commitment, and we'll have money that will help, again, support Hope for Today and Hope for Tomorrow. Go to bashor.org and click Donate. It is just as simple as that. A couple of quick thank yous right away for our supporters for the Bashor 99 Club podcast. One is Obico Corporation, a supplier to the RV industry. And hey, I don't want to tell any secret. Well, yeah, I do. All right. There's a really good looking guy out at Obico who is kind of fighting the feeling right now. He's been a little depressed for a couple of days. Rumor has it that he turned 40. So if you see Jason, just say happy 40 and tell him Vince sent you. But Obico, our thanks to them as well. And our thanks to New Way Construction, one of the top commercial builders here in our area, serving God and serving the community. That is New Way Construction. And we are really, really thrilled to be with us today, or to be joined today by a guy who you're going to want to hear his story, and you're going to want to hear it from start to finish. His name is Melvin Manning. He's the good-looking guy that if you're on the screen, he's to the right of me. He's in a coat and a tie and got a big smile. You know, I got the 99 T-shirt that we're trying to push, but at any rate, Melvin, welcome, and we're just so grateful that you've joined us by Zoom and on the podcast. To help us out a little bit as we go through the 99 Club. Taking construction company. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, let's get to the start of it. Melvin is one of the you can see from D Green. You can tell Melvin is a rock star from the Bashor campus. Melvin is a former resident. Spent 2 years, correct, Melvin? About 2 years on the Bashor.
A year, a little bit more than a year.
A little bit more than a year, and now is a tremendous success story. The owner and operator of his own company in Chicago. So, I guess Melvin, first of all, just tell us a little bit about where you are now, as far as what you're doing, what your family's like, what your company's like, what you're doing in Chicago.
So a little bit about myself, present self. I am the founder, president, and CEO of Gold's Home Improvement LLC. I'm a general contractor. We are a home improvement company licensed in Illinois and Indiana. Residential construction, we do a lot of gut rehabs for different clients, investors, homeowners, etc. We serve the Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and the Chicago region. We are a growing company, a very busy company, which is a blessing and a curse at times. I'm thankful to be in this role. It's a privilege. I am the father to a teenage son, which is crazy every time that I think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Family life is busy as well, on top of everything else. But I'm a pretty blessed man. No, not too many complaints.
That's fantastic. Do you ever, Melvin, as a teenager, or as a father of a teenage son, do you ever just kind of sit back and remember your teenage days and go, "Oh yeah, that's what they were talking about"?
I do. I definitely do, and I am blessed because of the fact that my son is a lot calmer than I was as a teenager. So I'm blessed in that fact. But yeah, it's a learning experience daily.
Yeah. Before we segue into your story, I guess a natural question for me is, Have you ever shared your story with your son at this point about some of the ups and downs of your journey as it relates to, okay, I want you to avoid some of the downs that I went through?
Absolutely, absolutely. I speak with and to my son, my nephews, neighborhood kids. I'm still involved with a lot of youth organizations,
Hmm.
Big Brothers Big Sisters, the YMCA, etc. So I try as much as possible to educate and just you know inspire youth with today's challenges to avoid as much as possible the challenges of our world, our society, and the challenges of being a teenager.
So, Melvin, let's take the Melvin Manning story. Before you came to Bashor Children's Home, what was life like? What was your situation like? Set the stage for us before you came to Bashor.
So I was in a home with my biological family, who are a group of wonderful people. We all have, our ups and downs, challenges, shortfalls, and everything that we deal with. I was born and raised in Chicago. We moved to avoid the challenges of, urban city life. I
Hmm.
moved to Maryville, Indiana at the age of 13, 14.
Okay.
Um, and, things very quickly unraveled for myself with relocating to Indiana, which ended up subsequently leading me to Bashor.
Okay. So you were in Maryville for a while. Got to ask this as just a little bit of a side question. Were you ever a pirate for a while? Because you'd look really good in purple.
I was a pirate. I was a pirate. Shout out to Melvin.
Now, does the T-shirt still fit?
It doesn't. It doesn't. No,
All
it doesn't. It doesn't.
right. So, what were some of the circumstances then, Melvin, that led you to Bashor?
I dealt with from family members, um, physical abuse, emotional abuse, etc. And that journey um,
Hmm.
began, like I said, shortly after moving
Okay.
to Maryville, and we, faced a lot of challenges. Um, and like I said, I ended up there at Bashor.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your arrival at Bashor because this almost seems like culture shock, right? I shared with you beforehand. I spent 10 years at the Children's Home, wonderful, beautiful campus, but coming from urban Chicago and then going to relatively suburban Maryville, that's a change enough.
Yes.
But
Yep.
all of a sudden now you're in the middle of the woods in Goshen, Indiana. What went through your mind when you first rolled up?
It was a lot of culture shock. I had never and I was still obviously very young in age at the time, but I had never
Mhm.
seen, or been exposed to like the Mennonite and the Amish culture
Mhm.
and just a lot of the local traditions and beings there in the Goshen area. So it was definitely a culture shock and some change that it took a little bit of time adjusting to.
So when you talk to some of your buds back in Chicago, how did you describe the first time you saw a horse pulling a buggy?
I don't remember, but it would have been the best description. It wouldn't have been the best description.
So when do you feel, Melvin, that you began to understand what Bashor was trying to do, what the people at Bashor were trying to do in terms of helping you get back on a positive path?
I, I I think that's a really good question, Vince. I realized it at different stages
Hmm.
of my time there, and as I transitioned out of Bashor, a lot of the relationships that I were able to build, a lot of the staff members, their words of encouragement, inspiration, advice, and so many other things uh, blessed me with that realization of, hey, you have these people here that are, here for you, your support,
Mm-hmm.
for your livelihood, and so many other things. So I realized that at different stages um, of the process of the journey.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk to you a little bit about somebody who had a really positive effect on you. We talked a little bit before the beginning of the show, Mark Adams. I want to do that in just a moment. But first, remind folks that Melvin Manning is our guest. He is a former guest at Bashor Children's Home and is now a very successful father, businessman, resident of Chicago, and has graciously agreed to join us for the Bashor 99 Club. You can be a part of the support of the programs that Melvin is talking about by joining us on the 99 Club. You get this fine t-shirt by going to bashor.org and clicking donate. All of the proceeds will go help support our programs that in turn provide help for today and hope for tomorrow to some of the children and families, not only in Elkhart County, but throughout northern Indiana and beyond, that we are able to minister to at Bashor Children's Home. So, boy, Melvin, your eyes lit up when I mentioned the name, talking about, when we were trying to figure out who was on campus when you were there. The name Mark Adams still means an awful lot to you. Really
It
fills you.
does. It does. It does. Mr. Adams was very influential and still is influential.
Mm-hmm.
We are blessed sometimes to come across people who have an everlasting effect on our lives, and Mr. Adams was definitely one of those individuals. He was a father figure, a role model, and so many other things. And he wore many hats and had the responsibilities of many men, and he held those responsibilities very well. He was somebody and is somebody that I'll always be grateful for being able to know.
Is there a particular lesson or interaction that you had with Mark that you remember more than anything else? Something that you took away with you?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a challenging question because there's literally thousands of them. I would say, and I don't remember. This was years ago, a decade at this point, a
Mhm.
decade ago. But I was in his office. I was speaking to Mr. Adams, and he was giving me advice on life and just maturing and growing up. And he had challenged me to do something. I don't remember the details too much of the challenge, but he challenged me to do something. And as a teenager at the time, and someone who was just like, "Hey, okay, Mr. Adams, sure, sure," I said, "I'll try." I said, "I'll try." And he said, "Okay, you'll try." And he picked up a pen, and he dropped the pen in front of me, and he said, "I want you to try to pick up that pen."
Mhm.
I reached down and picked it up. He said, "No, I didn't say pick it up. I said I want you to try to pick it up." So I said, "Okay," and I put the pen back down and I picked it back up and said, "No, I want you to try to pick this pen up." And the point that he was trying to make was the point that I speak to a lot of kids about. Um,
Mhm.
Either you are or you aren't. When you do something, give it your all. Give it your all. Commit to it. I told him I was going to try to do something which was just blowing him off, and he proved a point. He proved a point. Either you're going to do it or you're not. And when I speak to my son about going to school and paying attention, when I speak to kids in the community about staying out of trouble and gangs, etc., it's just that. Do it. Do
Yeah.
it. And I know sometimes, um, things are challenging, but you have to see it through.
I don't know if you can see right. I don't know if you can see right below you, but Rusty is
Questions, yeah,
has a shout out to you. Now, Rusty sent me a private message, Melvin, and said that he would slip me a sawbuck if I didn't let you tell any Rusty stories. So I don't know. How important was it, Melvin, that Mark Adams, Mr. Adams, and I think it's amazing that all this time away from Bashor, and to you, he's still Mr. Adams.
He's
That
still
that
Mr. Adams. He's still
that
Mr. Adams.
speaks tremendously about the respect that you had for him and that he had for
He
you.
will always be Mr.
Yeah.
Adams. Unfortunately, he has passed and left
Right.
us. but I went to his funeral and I actually spoke at his funeral, and everyone was Mark, 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 and I said, I don't know who Mark is, but Mr. Adams, Mr. Adams was this as a man to me. But yeah, he
Now,
was
do you think, Melvin, that you had that kind of respect for elders, teachers, etc., before you came to Bashor and interacted with Mr. Adams, or is that something you learned by being around Mr. Adams and that he earned that kind of respect from you?
I think I did have the sense of respect for
Hmm.
elders prior to coming to Bashor, but I really owe a great um, dignity of Mr. Adams and strengthening my lessons and beliefs and morals on many different things.
So I want to ask, before we move on to some other things, I want to ask one more thing about the importance of being with Mr. Adams. How important was it, Melvin, for you to, because Mark, African American, and with a story very similar to yours from way back in his background, but how important was it for you to be able to relate to another African American male?
It was very important, and that's an amazing question, Vince, because I think that's something. Because I go back and visit often as much as possible, and
Hmm.
I think that's something that is essential, right? Representation should be seen in every format, all right?
Hmm.
And because Mr. Adams was there, I had not only somebody to relate to, but I had somebody where on days where it may have been a rough day or etc. I could go to him knowing that he had like experiences where he could give me direct feedback, direct
Hmm.
knowledge, direct advice or words of wisdom. So that's very important, and it was important.
Well, because it struck me, Melvin, that when you were in Maryville, especially coming, that initial culture shock of going from Chicago to Maryville, a lot of well-meaning people, a lot of people with really good hearts, and a lot of people who wanted to help Melvin Manning out, but they were all people who looked like me and lived in my circle, primarily in Maryville. To come to Bashor and to be able to have someone like Mr. Adams to be able to bond with you had to break down some barriers for you.
It did. It did. Um, it definitely did. And in conjunction with that, a lot of the staff members now that we see comment on this feed,
Hmm.
to have them be of a different background, and have them just as well be
Hmm.
so uplifting, to me also helped me break down barriers to cultures or traditions or whatever that I may not or was not used to at the time.
Hmm. Melvin, what are some of the programs that you remember from Bashor, the experiences you remember from Bashor that had the most impact on you?
The Elkhart County Teen Court program. I
Hmm.
was a volunteer of that program. I was the lead prosecutor there for a good period of time. The educational staff, um, and a few other programs.
So did you work with Judge Dominy when you were with involved with Teen Court?
I did. Yep.
So tell me your impressions of the judge. She's had such great impact here in Elkhart County.
She was somebody that was always very very friendly, very knowledgeable, and always willing to give advice, knowledge, etc. The same with April Sellers, her husband, and
Hmm.
all of the judges or attorneys that volunteered with us.
So did you to be able to find people in law enforcement and in the judicial system, like Judge Dominy and some of the other names that you mentioned, to be partnering with them? Um, did you ever sit back at some point and go, "Whoa, has my life changed?"
Um, I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did. But in and of itself, that was a blessing to me. Because at the time I had such interest in law and law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always thankful to be able to shadow them and to be able to have conversations about law and criminal justice reform and so many other things. So that was a huge benefit of the program.
Because I got to ask you about one more program before we talk about your work with the Elkhart County Sheriff's Department after you left the children's home. Uh, did you ever make it into the woods to go onto the high elements course? And what was that like?
I the Summer Olympics was definitely a great experience for I would say everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You had your moments where it's like, oh, let's wrap this up. Let's wrap it up. But yeah, it was a great experience. It was a great.
Yeah, that's neat. Lori Harrington is if you look to the bottom of your screen, Lori Harrington is talking about you a little bit, so you need to give her a shout out. Other she'll find me at
Lori Harrington, D Green, Mark Adams, Laura Mama Lejos, of course Sean McCrindle. All of those people know my love, admiration, and appreciation.
No, wait a minute. Now, D says you were great at arguing. You got to explain that a little bit. Defend yourself here.
D was someone that I'm not gonna say supported the argument, but she taught me how to argue. Sometimes she taught me how to argue. She taught me how to argue.
That's a really diplomatic way of putting that, Melvin. You've developed some skills over the years.
Thank you.
I want to talk about the Elkhart County Sheriff's Department in a moment, but first we want to again remind you about the 99 Club here at Bashor Children's Home. Go to bashor.org, hit donate, and you can make a difference, as it says on the bottom of the screen, in the next generation of people like Melvin. Make that real difference at bashor.org. And hey, we're not beyond bribing you. We're going to give you one of these fine t-shirts. Hey, if I look decent in this, then you're going to look really good in a 99 t-shirt. Not as good as Melvin looks in that tie and that fine suit, but you're going to look pretty good anyway. And we want to give a shout out to our supporters, the people who are making this podcast possible. Birthday boy out at Obico. Jason is still mourning 40, but you can make him feel better. Thanks to Obico, a supplier to the RV industry, for making this broadcast possible. And also, thanks to the really good folks at New Way Construction, commercial construction. You can see their projects all over Elkhart County and in adjoining counties. Quality work with quality people. And a big part of their mission statement is serving God and being witnesses for Christ as they go out into the workforce. So for Obico and for New Way, we offer our thanks. So Melvin, in another one of those things about, you go back to your peeps in the streets of Chicago and you say, not only did I live in the woods with these people that are riding buggies and horses and et cetera, but you'll never believe what happened to me next. All of a sudden, I'm working with the Elkhart County Sheriff's Department. Tell us about that.
Something that everyone knew, or I should say expected from me. Like I said, I had always had an interest. My mother was in law enforcement. My father was in the United States Army. So I'd always had an interest to, public service. And that was an experience in and of itself. I joined the Elkhart County Sheriff's Department at a very, very young age. I was 18 years old, fresh out of high school. That was my first real job, and it was a blessing. It taught me so many things about discipline and professionalism, and opened my eyes to a lot of the challenges of the world.
Exactly. And you made the decision then. You'd said it'd been a life dream to be involved in law enforcement. You gave it that start, but now you've taken the lessons that you've learned at Bashor, the lessons you've learned in working with people at the Sheriff's Department, and you've started your own company. How did that happen?
So after leaving the prosecutor's office and the Sheriff's Department, I joined the United States Army. Spent a good amount of time in the Army, served in Afghanistan and a lot of different overseas activities. Decided to come back home, right? My contract was coming to an end. I wanted to do things that the Army kind of had limitations on. So I got out of the Army. My contract was up for renewal. I decided not to renew it. Um, Left the United States Army, moved to Houston, Texas, and joined the Harris County probation department. There, I was a juvenile probation officer.
Okay.
I did that for about 2 years, and then and in that process, I was, focusing on a lot of life goals with volunteer work, etc. And one of the things that always came back up was entrepreneurship and owning my own company and being able to, make decisions that are the decisions that will trickle down to your, team members or employees.
Mm-hmm.
So I saved a lot of money. I saved a lot of money. Moved back home to the Chicago, Northwest Indiana region, and started the company from there. It took about 6 months just applying for different application, different licenses, etc. I went to school for HVAC and electrical. So it was a lot going on. I was doing the administrative tasks of getting the company actually formulated, and then the work of actually becoming licensed in some of the fields myself.
That's terrific, and I'm sure that the lessons that you learned when you were here in Elkhart County, the lessons you learned in the military, have now become very practical when you deal with the individuals you've got working in your company. It allows you to understand their story, but also to help them understand what you expect from them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm blessed because of the experiences that I've had, whether at Bashor, in the Army, overseas, in the Sheriff's Department, have equipped me today to be able to deal with anybody, any walk of life, nationality, orientation, whatever. I've seen it all. I've experienced it all. I've had relationships in Afghanistan. We did work out in the actual villages in Afghanistan where we had to build relationships with the Afghan people in order to complete our mission there. And I had to build that relationship with an interpreter, right? But again, I've seen it. I've seen it all. I've experienced it all, and I'm blessed because my background has definitely equipped me to be a person that can deal with almost anything.
Well, you're a blessing to us too, Melvin, for having come on. I want to end it in kind of talk show fashion. I've just got some really quick questions with quick answers that we'll take it home with. Your favorite cottage?
Favorite cottage? Ooh, Dyer.
All right. Favorite food in the dining hall?
That's a hard one. The black bean burgers.
Black bean burgers. All right. Favorite high ropes course or high elements element?
I don't have one on top of my head. I'm a pass.
Oh, we're going to put you on the duodangle next time you come. Your favorite teacher?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I'm gonna say a tie. Oh no, can we do a three? Okay,
you can do three if you want. You bet, it's your show.
We're gonna do Chris Nesbitt, who deserves a shout out as well for always being a person to promote education to me, and I've always appreciated that. So Chris Nesbitt, Miss Watson, and Miss Pro.
That's terrific. And then finally, your favorite Sean McCrindle story.
Ooh, so Mr. McCrindle recently was promoted to CEO, and congratulations again to him for that. But in receiving the news myself, I had to celebrate that because he's been a mentor and a positive role model for myself. And I reached out to a lot of the old staff, Lori Harrington, Jessica Lala. And I said, what could I get Sean that he's gonna appreciate, that he's gonna like? And no matter who I reached out to, time and time again, Baby Yoda. So I haven't checked back in with him, but I blessed him with a pretty cool it was a lot of Baby Yoda gear for
Uh-huh.
promotion. I got him a huge Baby Yoda robe with a hood that once you pull the hood up, it's actually the face of Baby Yoda.
We're going to make him wear that on one of our next shows.
You guys have to. You have to.
All right. Melvin, you've been a delight. We really appreciate your time, and congratulations. Just keep pumping it. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and thank you again for having me, Vince.
All right. Melvin Manning, he is a former guest here at Bashor Children's Home and now is a great success story and still a supporter of Bashor Children's Home. You too can be a supporter of Bashor Children's Home. Go to bashor.org, donate, and become a member of the 99 Club. On behalf of Melvin, our producer, David O'Connor, Irish Dave, if you will, and me, Vince Turner, have a great night, everyone.